The story opens in a forgotten village shrouded in mist, a place where the modern world has barely touched the edges of its cobbled streets and ancient superstitions. At the heart of the village lies an old stone bridge, its arches weathered by centuries of rain and whispered secrets. The villagers speak of it in hushed tones, as if even naming it might summon its curse. Travelers who pass through are warned, do not cross the bridge at midnight. The scene unfolds with the arrival of an outsider, perhaps a scholar, a wanderer, or a skeptic drawn by rumors of the unexplained. The local tavern falls silent as they enter, eyes darting away as if the mere mention of the bridge might bring ill fortune. An elderly woman, her face lined with years and knowing, leans in close, her voice barely above a murmur. "They say the bridge doesn't lead to the other side of the river," she confides. "It leads elsewhere, and those who cross after the bell tolls 12 never return." The villagers' stories are fragments of tragedy, a missing child who wandered onto the bridge during a storm, a heartbroken lover who vanished after a midnight vow, soldiers from wars long past who marched across and were never seen again. Some claim to have heard faint voices carried on the wind, pleading in languages no one recognizes. Others swear they've seen figures standing on the bridge at dusk, only for them to dissolve into the fog when approached. Yet, for all the fear, there is a morbid fascination. The bridge stands as a dark monument, a riddle begging to be solved, and as the outsider listens, the seeds of doubt or determination take root. Is it mere superstition, a collective delusion, or is there something far older and more sinister woven into the stones of the bridge? The scene closes with the outsider stepping out into the cold evening air, their gaze lingering on the distant silhouette of the bridge. The wind carries a whisper, or perhaps it's just the rustling of dead leaves. But the question lingers, heavy in the mist. Will they dare to cross? The outsider, now settled in the village but still very much a stranger, finds themselves surrounded by wary glances and half-told tales. The locals, though hospitable in their own guarded way, speak of the bridge only when pressed, their words trailing off into uneasy silence. The scholar in them, the seeker of truth, chafes against these superstitions. Ghosts, vanishing bridges? It reeks of peasant folklore, the kind of story spun to frighten children or explain away mundane tragedies. Determined to expose the legend as mere myth, they begin their investigation. The village archives, dusty and neglected, yield little, only cryptic entries in old ledgers mentioning lost souls and the toll of the bridge. The blacksmith, a burly man with knotted hands, refuses to speak of it at first, but after a shared bottle of harsh local liquor, his tongue loosens. His brother, he admits, vanished years ago on a dare. "Went across at moon high," he mutters, staring into the fire. "We found his lantern still lit on the stones, but he was gone. Not a sound, not a ripple in the water below." The outsider scoffs. "Probably fell in. The river's deep, and the dark plays tricks on the eyes." The blacksmith's face hardens. "Then where's the body?" Undeterred, the outsider presses on, questioning the priest, the midwife, even the village drunk, each account more unsettling than the last. A mother speaks of hearing her daughter's voice calling from the bridge years after her disappearance. A shepherd claims to have seen figures in old-fashioned clothing walking there at dawn, their shapes blurred as if seen through smoke. The stories are maddeningly inconsistent, yet all share the same eerie core. The bridge takes, and it does not give back. By now, frustration has sharpened into resolve. The outsider's skepticism hardens into something like defiance. These people are prisoners of their own fear, clinging to fairy tales instead of facts. Tonight, they decide, I'll cross that bridge myself, and when I return at dawn, this nonsense will end. The villagers, sensing their intent, react with a mix of horror and morbid fascination. Some beg them not to go, others refuse to meet their eyes, as if they're already a ghost. Only the old woman from the tavern offers a final warning, her gnarled fingers clutching their sleeve. You think you're proving courage, she whispers, but the bridge doesn't care why you cross. It only cares that you do. As night falls, the outsider stands at the foot of the bridge, lantern in hand. The stones glisten with damp, the far end swallowed by the dark. Somewhere, an owl cries, or is it a laugh? The air hums with something unnameable. For the first time, doubt flickers in their chest. But it's too late to turn back now. The witching hour finds our protagonist standing at the mouth of the bridge, the village's last lantern light flickering out behind them. A deathly hush settles over the landscape as the final stroke of midnight fades into silence. The bridge, which by day appeared merely old and worn, now seems to thrum with a quiet malevolence, its stones drinking in the pale moonlight like a parched beast. As their foot makes first contact with the ancient cobbles, a shudder runs through the ground, or perhaps through the protagonist's very bones. The air grows thick, each breath tasting of damp earth and something older, something that should not be breathed. The river below, visible moments ago, has vanished beneath a roiling blanket of mist that rises with unnatural speed, swallowing the bridge's supports whole. The further they venture, the more the world distorts. Time becomes viscous. Seconds stretch into minutes, yet their pocket watch insists mere heartbeats have passed. The bridge lengthens before them, its far end receding into impossible distance, while the path behind collapses into darkness. Their lantern, a beacon of the rational world, begins to fail. The flame gutters low, casting elongated shadows that move independently of any light source. Then come the whispers. At first, just murmurs at the edge of hearing. They swell into a cacophony of lost voices, some pleading, some laughing, all speaking in tongues both familiar and alien. The stones beneath their feet grow warm, then hot, pulsing like living flesh. When they stumble and place a hand on the railing to steady themselves, the wood shifts beneath their fingers, becoming for one horrifying moment what feels like human bone. Halfway across, if halfway can be measured in this place between places, the temperature plummets. Their breath fogs the air, but the mist does not freeze. Instead, it coalesces into shapes that flit at the corners of their vision. Something cold and insubstantial brushes against their cheek. A child's voice, clear as spring water, asks a question in a language they've never heard but somehow understand perfectly. When they turn to flee, the bridge behind them is gone. In its place stands a forest of grasping hands, petrified in silent anguish. The lantern finally dies, and in that final moment of light, they see their own face reflected in 100 pairs of eyes emerging from the dark, some human, some decidedly not. The last thing they hear before the darkness takes them is the sound of their own voice, whispering words they don't remember speaking, from a throat that no longer feels like their own. The darkness does not lift so much as it changes, shifting from an absence of light to something thicker, heavier, like wading through liquid shadow. The protagonist staggers forward, their body no longer feeling entirely their own, limbs moving through the gloom as though pushing against unseen currents. Then, all at once, the pressure releases and the world reassembles itself in jagged pieces. They are no longer on the bridge. The sky here is wrong, a bruised purple streaked with veins of silver, like tarnished mirrors reflecting a dead sun. The air smells of wet ash and copper, metallic and sour. The ground beneath their feet is not earth, not stone, but something porous and yielding, like packed bone dust. Shapes loom in the distance, structures that might have once been buildings, their angles warped as if viewed through warped glass. And then there are the others. Figures drift through this hollow landscape, some nearly solid, others mere smudges of memory. A woman in a tattered Victorian dress floats past, her mouth moving in silent recitation. A soldier from some forgotten war stumbles by, his uniform rotting off his body even as he walks. A child sits in the dust, drawing patterns with fingers that dissolve into smoke at the wrists. None react to the protagonist's presence, at least not at first. Then, one by one, they turn. Eyes, some human, some not, fix upon the newcomer. The whispers return, but now they are clear, overlapping, desperate. You're new. How long has it been out there? Tell me, does the river still freeze in winter? Take my place. Please, take my place. The protagonist backs away, but hands grasp at their sleeves, not to harm, but to connect, to confirm that here, at least, is someone still fresh from the world they've lost. One figure steps forward, more defined than the rest, a man whose face is eerily familiar. It takes a terrible moment to realize it's the blacksmith's brother, the one who vanished years ago. His eyes are hollow, his voice cracked with disuse. You shouldn't have crossed, he says. The bridge doesn't lead anywhere. It just keeps you. Around them, the landscape shudders. The false sky ripples like disturbed water. Something vast and shapeless moves at the edges of this purgatory, and the vanished ones shrink from it instinctively. The air grows heavier, tasting of ozone and old blood. The protagonist understands, with dawning horror, that they are not just trapped. They are being digested. The protagonist stumbles backward, the voices of the vanished still clawing at the edges of their mind. The air itself feels alive here, a slow, rhythmic pulse pressing against their skin like the walls of some enormous lung. The blacksmith's brother grips their arm, his fingers cold and brittle as old parchment. You can't stay here, he rasps. Not if you're still whole enough to run. The protagonist's breath comes in sharp, panicked bursts. They turn, scanning the warped horizon for any sign of the bridge, any way back. But the landscape shifts like a living thing, paths twisting in on themselves, mirages of familiar shapes dissolving when approached. The ground beneath them trembles, and for a fleeting moment, they catch a glimpse of something vast moving beneath the surface. Something that is not earth, not stone, but something older. The other lost souls begin to gather, their hollow eyes reflecting a dim, desperate hope. A woman missing half her face presses a rusted locket into the protagonist's hand. Find my daughter, she whispers, though her lips do not move. Tell her I didn't choose to leave. A soldier with a gaping chest wound points toward a fissure in the ground, where the air shimmers like heat over a flame. It opens sometimes, he says, but only if you're willing to leave something behind. The protagonist hesitates. What is the price? A memory? A piece of their body? Their very name? But the decision is made for them. The sky above twists, and the ground lurches violently. The shapeless thing at the edges of this purgatory is stirring, drawn by the presence of someone still clinging to the warmth of the living world. The air fills with a sound like 1,000 bones grinding together, and the lost souls scatter like leaves in a storm, their forms fraying at the edges as they flee. The protagonist runs. They don't know where they're going, only that they cannot stop. The landscape contorts around them, paths splitting and merging like veins. The locket burns in their palm, its metal searing into their skin. Behind them, the air splits open with a sound like tearing flesh, and a gust of wind, hot and reeking of decay, pushes them forward. Then, suddenly, the bridge. It materializes ahead, its stones slick with something dark and glistening. The far end is still shrouded in mist, but for the first time, there is a sliver of light, the faintest hint of moonlight piercing through. The protagonist lunges for it, their muscles screaming. But the bridge is not empty. Figures line the edges, their hands outstretched, not to stop them but to push them forward. "Go!" they hiss. "Before it takes you too!" The protagonist feels their fingers brush against the mist, and then the world snaps back into place. They collapse onto solid ground, gasping. The village lies silent before them, the bridge looming at their back. The air is cold and clean, the sky untouched by that other place. But when they look down, the locket is still in their hand, and it is weeping. The protagonist staggers into the village square at dawn, their clothes damp with mist and something darker. The locket burns like a brand in their clenched fist, its metallic weeping leaving trails of tarnished silver down their wrist. The villagers emerge slowly, their faces pale with disbelief. No one has ever returned from the bridge before. The blacksmith is the first to approach, his massive frame trembling. When he sees the locket, his breath catches. "That belonged to my brother's wife," he whispers. "She vanished the winter after he did. You saw them?" The weight of the question hangs in the air. The protagonist opens their mouth, but no sound comes out. How can they explain the writhing darkness, the hollowed-out souls, the thing that lurked at the edges of that other place? The villagers press closer, their eyes wide with a terrible mix of hope and dread. A woman clutches at their sleeve. "My boy! Did you see my boy? He had a birthmark here." She taps her collarbone, her fingers shaking. The priest steps forward, his voice low. "They say the bridge demands a trade," he murmurs. "One soul for another. Is that how you escaped?" The accusation lingers unspoken. "Did you condemn someone else to take your place?" The protagonist's hands tremble. They remember the soldier's words, "Only if you're willing to leave something behind," and the way the lost souls had pushed them toward the light. Had they unknowingly traded one of them for their own freedom? Or worse, is something of that cursed place still clinging to them, waiting to pull them back? Then the old woman from the tavern emerges, her milky eyes knowing. "The bridge isn't done with you," she croaks. "It never is." She reaches out, pressing a rusted key into their palm. "This was found on the riverbank the day the first soul vanished. It doesn't belong to any lock here." The protagonist turns the key over, and a memory surfaces, a door in the depths of that other place, warped and pulsing like a living thing. Had it been there all along? Had the lost souls been trying to guide them toward it? A child's voice pipes up from the crowd. "You have to go back, don't you?" Silence falls. The villagers' faces shift from awe to something harder, fear, resentment. The unspoken truth settles over them all. The bridge has tasted the protagonist's presence. It will hunger for them until the end of their days. And if they don't return willingly, it will take others instead. The village holds its breath as the protagonist stands once more at the foot of the bridge, the rusted key biting into their palm. Dawn's light does not touch the ancient stones. The bridge exists in perpetual twilight, its far end swallowed by a mist that moves against the wind. The air hums with static, the scent of ozone and damp earth thickening with each step forward. The villagers do not follow. They linger at a distance, their faces etched with a terrible understanding. This is not a rescue, but an ending. The blacksmith grips his hammer like a talisman, his jaw set. The old woman murmurs a prayer in a language no one remembers. The child who spoke the truth earlier now hides their face in their mother's skirts. The protagonist steps onto the bridge. This time the transition is instantaneous. The world folds around them, the village vanishing as the other place asserts itself with visceral hunger. The sky is the color of a bruise, the ground beneath their feet spongy and warm. The lost souls materialize like shadows given form, their hollow eyes fixed on the key in the protagonist's hand. The soldier steps forward, his voice a dry rasp. "You came back." It is not a question. The protagonist holds up the key. "Where does it go?" The woman with the locket points into the gloom where a door now stands, a thing of blackened wood and rusted hinges, pulsing faintly as if breathing. "Through there," she whispers. But it isn't an exit, it's the heart. The door creaks open at the touch of the key, revealing not darkness, but a reflection. The bridge, as it once was, whole and unbroken, bathed in golden light. Figures move there, not the hollowed remnants of the lost, but their living selves, frozen in the moment before they vanished. The soldier marching home, the woman laughing as she adjusts her locket, the child chasing a butterfly toward the railing. The protagonist understands. This is no escape. It's a reliving. A chance to step into that moment and become the bridge's next guardian, to take the place of whatever watches from the dark. The lost souls could cross this threshold, but only by trapping another in their stead. Behind them, the air curdles. The shapeless thing that rules this place stirs, its presence like a weight on the chest. The door's light flickers. The protagonist turns to the gathered souls, their faces alight with desperate hope. Is this the only way? The child nods. The bridge is hungry. It always will be. A beat of silence. The protagonist looks back at the door, then at the key in their hand. They make their choice. The protagonist steps through the door, not to trade places, but to shatter the cycle. The bridge trembles as the key twists in the lock, the golden light flaring white-hot before exploding outward. The lost souls dissolve into the light, finally free. The protagonist wakes on the riverbank at dawn, the bridge reduced to rubble behind them. The key is gone. So is the weeping locket. They take the soldier's place, standing vigil at the threshold. The lost souls fade, but the bridge remains. The villagers will whisper of a new figure seen at dusk, a silhouette urging travelers away. The key hangs from their neck, cold against their skin. The door closes. The protagonist turns to face the shapeless thing fully and smiles. The bridge changes, its stones reshaping into something new. The next traveler who crosses will find a village on the other side, a perfect replica, empty, waiting. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.